Hello everyone, welcome back to iGenPod TV. As you all know that we keep sharing educational, the educational concepts where the kids teach a lot of things, where we bring in various experts from the educational backgrounds. And similarly, today we have Mr. Samir from, who is a vice principal with Legacy School. And we're gonna deep dive into a very interesting topic around education, and you'll get to know a lot of things which are developing in the education space. Welcome, Mr. Samir, on the channel, and thank you so much for taking time out. Sir, I just got to know that you just completed a course from Harvard, which was around developing strategies for online teaching and learning. So, can you please share your learnings from that, and what kind of an exposure was that, and what new you could share with the people watching this particular episode?
So I think thank you for the invitation, Ashish. And I think the course was an extension and validation of what we were already doing at Legacy School. It took us less than 48 hours to move our school from an offline in-person school to an online model. So we wanted to understand what are the best practices around the world. So me and my other four colleagues, we were enrolled for the course to understand what are the new learnings for us, which we can bring into our own system. So what I realized with the conversation around the world is that the opportunities and the challenges which we are facing as educators, irrespective of the country we are in, are the same. So that was my first learning. And the second learning, I think, was a very positive learning for me, that what we were considering as challenges, I started looking at opportunities. So that was a very interesting observation and learning for me. And if I talk about, there is a unique opportunity we've been talking about for years, and we try to do it in a small methods in our school system. We call it flipped classroom, where the children lead the classroom and the teacher becomes the moderator or a coach. So I think that's what one of the key learnings was, that students can go through the content at their own pace. They don't typically need a teacher today. Make sure that the students are aware of the content they're supposed to do and the way they're supposed to do. And the teacher's role completely shift from sage on the stage to the facilitator of a coach. Content then comes back into the classroom for discussion. And during the discussion, what you try to do is you give children an agency to express their opinion on the content they have read. And that becomes a very positive action to bring the student community together to ideate, to discuss, and lead their own learning. The second interesting thing is I'm also doing career counseling this year for my school. And interesting thing is that I have access to students more than ever before. Till last year, or probably till March, I used to look at my watch and say, and how much time do I have for this kid? Because I have 70 kids to meet. But this year it has totally changed. The students are at my disposal, I'm at their disposal, and I'm meeting my students to understand their challenges at times convenient to them. So sometimes we have a meeting at 9:30 p.m. and sometimes we have a meeting at 6 a.m. So that's an interesting opportunity for me to not confine myself from 8 to 3 p.m. and meet my students only during that span of time. The third thing I think is very interesting is that there is a unique opportunity for all educators in schools to make learning very personalized for the students. The students who can study at their own pace and will be able to decide what, how, when, and where they're going to access their learning and complete their work. And this will enable them to give more agency and more control over their own learning and more responsibility. And I think that's a unique rhetoric we hear everywhere. The students of this generation are very entitled and they don't take charge of their learning. So I think this is the time when as educators, we can build their capacity to give the charge of their own learning to themselves. Teachers can now focus a lot more on project and authentic learning opportunities. Students may be doing work from home. They may be thinking more about the community they're living in, the environment they're living in, and they have access to online tools. I mean, today I have opportunity to I've been bringing guest lecturers from around the world today, which was not an opportunity for me probably till last year. I haven't thought of it. So I have an economics professor from probably UPenn taking classes with my children, a professor from Dundee University in UK talking about psychology, taking my psychology class, or a professor on University of Queensland who's tutored my program, tutored my children and mentored my children to in an entrepreneurship boot camp to understand, deconstruct the process of being an entrepreneur. So I think these are the unique opportunities. The world is at your disposal. And that's what my learning from this course was typically.
Mr. Samir, great points, and I have few questions around it. So first of all, on the first point, you mentioned that kids given the opportunity to lead the class and actually, just being the helping them with the content, and then and correct me if I'm wrong, that helping them with the content and making them to drive that what the learning has to be come out of the class. And do you think that the kids connect better with a kid teaching them about that particular concept, or is there a better connection with the kids teaching in the class? Because we follow this a lot with within iGenPod, I think, where we ask the kids, we teach a concept, and then we ask the kids to do the role plays where they have to come out with their understanding of that particular topic and talk to the kids and have a system where they talk to each other and they understand that this is what the topic is all about. So, can you throw a bit light on that particular thing?
I think we were even doing it before. The peer
Okay.
mentoring and teaching is one of the most effective way. Trust me, because I'll just deconstruct this concept for you very, very simply. Put it in a simple word. As an adult, my implied understanding is that the child knows this, right? So my ability to empathize with the child from his own learning style and his learning point of view becomes a little restricted as a teacher. As an adult, I say, okay, I mean, you would have heard it in your class a lot of times, teachers saying, "Arey yaar, itna to aata hi hoga," "Arey bhai, nahi aata, I don't know." So I think there the children can empathize with another child or another set of children better. They understand what are the possible challenges because they're in the same age group. They understand what are the possible challenges and how they can resolve. So even before this, I used to make one student of my class who's mastered a particular topic become a peer mentor for others, and it's a unique opportunity, and I think it's a unique skill which you can develop in children. And I mean, I don't have right now research-based data, but if we do a little dwell a little deeper into it, I'm sure there is enough research done on saying that peer mentoring and peer teaching is one of the best methods, and it's universally practiced across different progressive schools around the world.
Correct,
So I think it's a great opportunity to do peer teaching.
And on the third point which you made, that the kind of teachings which are coming in, and because it's all online, you are able to bring in various professors teaching them various kind of topics. So do you think this entrepreneurship, which which is a complete new concept for the kids, and teaching them about finance, like how early a kid can start learning around that as per you? Like what is the perfect age group to start teaching them around finance? And I'm very sure about it because I have been in schools myself, and I've been into best of schools, but never got such a thing in my curriculum as finance, as entrepreneurship, as business management, or which are the crew. We learned it hard way when we went out, started earning. We didn't know where to invest, what to do with the money. But that kind of curriculum building in the schools, how important it is as per you?
It's a very interesting debate. I think, Ashish, we can have a complete podcast on that only. I have two unsuccessful and failed startups in my resume. I did
Okay.
two startups, and I of course, they had their highs and lows, and I completely failed. And I wish I had training in entrepreneurship formally in my school. Again, I'll deconstruct the word entrepreneurship in a little more simpler manner for all of us to understand. What is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is an ability to break down your problem into small acts which you can approach and solve it. So entrepreneurship is not basically ability to self-employ only. That's maybe one of the outcomes. So entrepreneurship is the ability to teach children that that you can overcome challenges with a structured approach, with an entrepreneurial mindset, what we say, and that there is nothing in this life or in this world you cannot learn. So we teach them entrepreneurial mindset, we teach them growth mindset. So I think it's very important, specifically in today's world, when the learning, we are in a knowledge world, knowledge economy, that these are the words which are thrown around all the time in the education sector, where the knowledge is being challenged every day and being created every probably fraction of a second. Do you think it is even a choice for not teaching children entrepreneurial mindset? Because if you don't teach them, are you even doing the basic job of an educational institution, which is preparing children for life and workforce. Because the workforce demands agility. Workforce demands people who have the mindset or an entrepreneurial mindset, if I say it so, to break down a problem into smaller components and solve it, to be able to learn new skills on the job. Because what you're learning today, by the time these children who are in probably grade 1 and 2, they graduate from school or probably into life from colleges, the kind of jobs they've heard of will not even exist, right? So what are you training them for? You should be ideally teaching them, because when they graduate in life, they will not have the skills for the jobs which are existing at that point of time, right? So entrepreneurial or growth mindset, entrepreneurial mindset is very, very unique. uh, Ironically, our system doesn't allow it, and most of the I'm not talking for my school. We are very, very gifted. We are in a school where this is a part of our curriculum, but I know across the country there are schools where entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial mindset, financial literacy, these are even words not even heard of. So I
Yeah.
think it's very unique, and I think organizations such as yours are doing a great job that way.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think parents have also understood this particular gap where they have understood that these are some really, really important skills which kids should get early in this stage, and they develop their cognitive skills and social emotional skills, and that helps them in the longer run. And I think very valid point, Mr. Samir, around that. So, coming to another set of questions which I had for you. So, what are some challenges? Like you did delve upon the things that these are the advantages. There were some points which came out as it's easy to for the teachers to connect at the time where when the kid is comfortable and the teacher is comfortable, and any point of time it's not confined around the time limit from 8 to 3 and stuff. So, what are some challenges which are around online teaching as per your understanding?
I think interesting was, Ashish, that the challenges were not very unique to India. They were universal challenges. So I'll list out some challenges which I think are relevant for this talk. And of course, there are innumerable challenges, and the challenges are also in context. The challenges for me may be very different from the challenges of a school in a rural area, from a school in semi-urban setting, school in UK, US. So, but I'm just going to pick up a few common challenges which we've talked about. I think so. One of the biggest challenge I see is that of an access. Do you know, as per a report, there are only 42% of children who have access to internet in India?
Yeah.
Only 24% in India, actually. 24% in India. Of this 24%, 42% probably households are in urban area, and it's about 15% in rural area. So where are this large gap of 76% children who do not have access to education at all? What are they going to do? What is the learning gap in their life? So that's very worrying for me. In addition to lack of access, I see huge challenges for children with learning challenges. You know, in our school setup, again, I can talk about my school. We've created children who have learning challenges or special needs. We try to do 2 extra classes, 3 extra classes a week for them. But these children need a social connect with the teacher. So that there is where I see a challenge, particularly schools are not geared up. They don't have a dedicated inclusive education department. The children, one, who do not have access at all, their learning gap is going to widen, which is very, very worrying as a nation for us. I don't know why we're not thinking about it. And the second is the learning challenges for children who have learning needs, special learning needs. Online education is going to be tougher for them. In addition to that, I can talk about accessibility. That means the kind of content which is being curated by teachers. Is it really in a quality which can be assimilated by a child, and the learning can happen effectively? I think the second most important challenge, which I talk about it when I talk to my kids, when I talk to my colleagues, and I asked them. I said, "What is that you're missing?" And across the world, not here, but just kids across the world, everybody says, "Yeah, sir, we want to come back to school." I know before pandemic, all of us were dying to take one odd leave on a Monday, but right now everybody's struggling with not being able to physically and socially connect, and that is a very innate desire of a human being. I think the relationships we build with our students are key to their academic success. I've seen kids transforming with their relationship, one relationship with a teacher or another peer student. Despite their likes, dislikes, academic achievements, students want to feel, whether they are high achievers, low achievers, moderate achievers, they want to feel a sense of belongingness, a connection to someone or something within schools and classrooms. However, with this new normal, half of the videos of students turned off, students don't feel socially connected, which indeed is very critical and for effective learning. Social connection is very effective for critical for effective learning. Of course, with the challenges of online learning and socialization, support and other activities that contribute to a sense of belongingness, a virtual teacher has to work far more harder to provide a cohesive environment and social connections that can foster academic success, which is very, very important. So if you don't have a social connection with your children, I've seen best of teachers failing today around the country. I mean, they've been very, very successful teachers, produced board results, produced sent children to some of the Ivy Leagues of the world. But because they are unable to establish a social connection with the children, the learning is not happening very effectively. So my advice to teacher is to continue nurturing the sense of community in all learners. Have open chat sessions, sometimes beyond, not sometimes, I always begin my class with one question: how are you today? And I said, you don't have to answer this question. You can personally answer it to my chat. You can write to me. You can seek appointment from me looking at my calendar. But how are you today? So they can say thumbs up, thumbs down, not sure. So at least allow a safe space for children to express how are they feeling. Don't jump into your lecture. That can happen. That children can learn on their own. There is Khan Academy for that today. Honestly, they don't need teachers today, honestly, in today's time. What they need teachers for is for a more of a social and emotional connection. And be genuinely interested in the well-being of your students. And I think a lot of time we get so bogged down by our approach to covering syllabus, which I understand because there's a pressure from parents, there is a pressure from school. We forget about the well-being of children. Don't do that. Be genuinely interested in the well-being of your students. I always tell my students at the end of the class, 10 minutes before the class ends, I end it for them. And I said, those of you who want to go, please go ahead. Those of you who want to stay back and want to have just a chat with me, you're happy to stay back. I'll put you in different chat rooms in Zoom and I'll connect with you one-on-one. So create those opportunities for personal connections, personal conversations, and telling children, hey, I care as much as I used to care in the physical classroom. Don't make your online classes an extension of your offline classes. It is not the same. You can't treat your children the same way you treated them when they were in front of you. Remember, teaching and learning is a social process, and relationship is at the heart of this process, whether it's online or face-to-face. So it's important for us as educators, if you're transitioning into the online learning and it looks like we're going to be here for a while, or maybe some form of blended learning, we need to come back to one question: am I building strong relationship with my children? Because if I don't have strong relationship with my children, if I'm not genuinely interested in the well-being of my children, if I'm not creating opportunities for my children to talk to me in person, I'm not setting them out for success at all. Their academic success will always be a question mark. So keep that in mind. One of the third challenge, which I keep hearing across the country and across the world, I would again say, I think we are no different. We are a nation obsessed with marks. We are a nation obsessed with examinations. So I think barring few schools around the world who are generally keeping learning at the core of the school, our system demands us to be an exam and assessment oriented. So however, the biggest challenge, two challenges teachers are facing today. How do we conduct online exams? How do we authenticate or validate the authenticity of these exams? How do we know the child has not cheated? So imagine, I'm talking about relationships, says there's not even a basic trust. And we trade trust for one child who would probably go back and do something out of insecurity for other 20 children in the class, who may be genuinely doing their test. So I think, how do we conduct online exams? How do we validate the authenticity of these exams? These are two questions which all educators are struggling across, irrespective of where you are. So I've even known schools testing young learners, Ashish, at the age of 6, sitting in front of screen for 2 hours, and the exams are being proctored by parents. Imagine a 6-year-old child sitting in front of a screen writing a 2-hour exam. I've even seen that. Luckily, it doesn't happen in our school. We are far more, we're absolutely learning-centric school and not an exam-centric school. I've known schools test. I mean, it indeed is a time to rethink assessments. Why do you want to even do a test? There are different formats. Do the online discussions with children, because I said to build community, you need to have online discussions. Do project-based learning. Use formative assessments as a part of your routine. After every topic you do, you can do a formative assessment. There are great tools like Kahoot and things like that, which are available for you to do it. Rather than doing a timed-based testing in 1 hour, you have to produce this, 1.5 hours, you have to produce this. Leave it for the teachers who are teaching board batches. They're already struggling with it. At the age 6 to say 13, 14, just let them discover more, let them enjoy the learning process, let them enjoy this new normal. Don't make it a assessment oriented learning. Again, one thing which was very interesting, I leave it with you, is that this is the time, I know most of us are aware of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which says physiological, social, self-esteem, and self-actualization needs. And we talk about Bloom's taxonomy, that is how the learning should deconstruct. What are these skills we should develop in children? Everywhere in the world today, they're saying it's Maslow over Bloom's taxonomy. That means learning is not as important as social relationship with children are, because if that's being taken care of, the learning will take care of itself. So Maslow before Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm so happy to hear all of this from you, coming from you, because actually, when the the conception of iGenPod was happening, this is all the discussion we went through, and all the points which you spoke and the kind of disadvantages and advantages you brought up, all of that was the thought process while we were actually conceptualizing all of this. Like, this is what gets missed. All of our classes should start with an emotional connect by the teacher with the students, and they feel so comfortable, because see, confidence building, communication skills building, financial literacy, all of these are some complicated topics. Unless and until the kid will be comfortable, he will not speak out. That's what, as parents, they kind of miss. They kind of create an environment in the home also, that the kid becomes underconfident. He is not able to speak that much, and he's not very, very confident. And we make sure that we create a safe environment within the class for him. And like, when you were speaking, I was like internally very happy, like thinking about that. That's my somebody has as knowledgeable as you is validating all those points which we thought, and we created all of this. And I think it's a worldwide problem, as you said, and I think people and schools like yours are improving that internally. And I think the students who are learning with you and studying with you are very I say they are lucky to have this kind of education in space where they are, actually being developed internally, and there's no pressure. But hopefully there is a bigger momentum, and I think most of the schools take this kind of initiative where they go with this kind of process internally. Thank you, Samir. Like, that was great information, and I think wise words for me also to hear. And another question I had, like, we had this new education policy which came up. What's your opinion on it? Like, I know it's again a very, very broad topic, but a few points which you, as per your thought process, if you can share.
So I'll just keep it very brief. I think it's an extremely aspirational, well thought through, democratically developed policy document which focuses on universal access to quality education. And of course, it's going to put India's continued accent and leadership on the global stage. So for me, what were the unique features? I'll talk to you about basic 3 key features for me as an educator. I think formalization and recognition of the importance of earlier education was very unique to me. Now we're not talking about 6 to 14 years. We're talking about 3 to 18 years. And we know most of the brain development, according to science, happens between the age 3 to 7. So we were missing out that chunk of 3 to 5 years of age group, which is now incorporated formally into the national education policy. And I'm very happy about it. And you're not leaving children at the age of 14 to fend for themselves. You're also saying, it is important that we transition up to years 18. That was very important. The second thing, it's being talked about. I'm very curious to see how does it get executed. Keeping board exams as low-stake board exams. And and redesigned, keeping in mind to test actual knowledge and core competencies required, and not just to cram and reproduce what you've read in the books, and absolutely not in context. So that's very unique. Keeping board exams as a low-stake exam, doing it multiple times in the year, so that children, don't end up, just because they've had a bad day and a bad exam, they don't have to live it with that exam all their lives. The third thing is a higher education. The route of development of vocational skills from grade 6 onwards is great. And as a society, we are very obsessed with not sending our children down the vocational skills route. It's okay to be a truck driver in Canada, but it's not okay to be a truck driver in India. It's okay to be an electrician in the UK, but it's not okay to be an electrician in India, right? So I think they're trying to destigmatize vocational education, which was inherently part of Indian education system, and it just got destroyed in the process of our obsession of becoming a nation of engineers. Engineer is, I think so, the biggest religion in India today.
Yeah.
So I think so these were unique features for me. I'm very curious to see how does it progress. It's very aspirational. I'm happy about it. At least we have a policy document to refer to after so many years. So that's my take. 3 key features for me as an educator. Great to include early years. Great to keep board exams as low stake exams. Great to focus on vocational education, because there's no point creating, almost 1 million engineers and 95% of them are unemployable. It's good to create, more skilled labor.
Right. I think very valid point, Sameer. And I was having another conversation with, when this policy came out with one of the educator again. And the similar kind of points were raised by him. And he was like, everybody is happy with this kind of policy document coming in. And we have to see how the implementation happens and how the adoption, of this policy goes. Coming to another question which I had, and I think we did raise, some of the points around it. How important, as per you, and you said that in your conversation that the brain development happens from 3 to 7 year old kids. So, what kind of teaching and what kind of real life skills are important to be taught around that time, as per you, and what has been your experience?
I think that's an exploratory stage, and I think we allow children to be children. I've visited Finland because of the education system is had. Till age 7, they don't teach anything. They just allow children to explore themselves. There's a lot of free play time. There's a lot of friend time. There is a lot of reading and playing time. So with the play, they explore the life skills they need to develop. That's a life skill of survival, life skill of adaptation, life skill of negotiation. You don't have to formalize into the curriculum. So my worry is that's my worry. And I know we were talking about what are the thoughts around teaching coding to kids at an early age, right?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question and a few comments to make, and I'll leave for you and the audience to decide whether coding should be taught or not. I don't need to state that a large population of young students, even by age 14, are not able to achieve basic literacy and numeracy skill in India. Majority of our population, I'll have to go back and look at statistics, but majority of the children in semi-urban rural areas and the government schools at the age 14 have literacy and numeracy skill of age 2 or 3. So my worry is that while urban schools will pick it up, coding fast and making it as the USP, rural kids again may not have access to these. Now, what does it lead to? It leads to another divide, a digital divide within our society. So that's my worry. So can you please, in next 3 to 5 years, make sure that every single child in India, irrespective of the socioeconomic background he's coming from, is able to read and do maths at the age appropriate level? That's the first step one. Coding comes far later. I'm not of the opinion that just because some kids can't do it, others should be disadvantaged. But I'm not in a favor of making it like a curriculum in terms of being taught in the school as yet. And there is a strong argument in the favor of coding, since we know that children under the age 7 acquire foreign languages extremely rapidly. So why not the computer vernacular languages should be taught to them? If kids are taught to think logically and even computationally at a young age, they will be able to learn programming much better in the adulthood. These are some of the arguments which are given. Even if they don't pursue career in programming, the ability to understand basic programming concepts and think logically is very critical. So that's what programming and coding teaches you. So these are some of the arguments which we will give, and I buy some of these arguments. Well, if you ask me, if I'm a parent and you ask me why should I teach my kid programming, the most common answer I get is, man, that's the way the world is heading to. If you need to survive in digital economy, you need to know programming from a young age. And that's a context I have. That's a very strong objection to this statement we are making. It's such an obtuse view. The world doesn't need only programmers. Look at how higher education in India is going traditional way, and what we call as a liberal arts education, Americanized version of education, but actually started in Indian universities like Nalanda and Takshila. People used to study 65 disciplines in the journey of their career, at educational institution. Of course, it started with monastic view of learning your culture, learning your religion, but it would lead them to medicine, to engineering, to science, so to financial literacy. And there are new age universities like Ashoka, Flames, and Kriya, which have come in teaching liberal arts education, and now Plaksha's revolutionizing technical education in India. So what are we saying? Such an obtuse view. The only way to be successful in life is only coding and programming, and you should start teaching children at a young age. So I have an objection with that view.
Yeah.
Don't put pressure on children. Don't take away their exploratory way. Children need to touch, feel, play. And if you give them screen time of 6 to 8 hours a day, which is not even recommended by World Health Organization, where are you pushing your children to? So I mean, when we were young, we would see a child deconstructing something, playing with Lego or blocks. We would say, "Ye bada hoke engineer banega." So those kind of exploratory skills are restricted if you put children just in front of a screen and say, "Learn programming and coding."
Yeah.
And I think we need to create opportunities for children to engage in different forms in education and learning, whether it's programming, straight math, reading literature, history books, learning complex football, cricket. Any kind of learning is a good learning. So don't restrict it to the children should be taught coding and programming in this format.
Yeah, and the kind of ads going around, like
Oh.
your
I sometimes feel it's a capitalistic driven this
yeah.
thing, because higher education is going away from programming. So somebody has to buy programming. So let's take it to the school level.
Right, right. I think Samir, very, very, very good points. I think I myself has learned a lot while this conversation was ongoing. There's one thing which from the parents' perspective, which I had in mind, that if the kid is not catching up, and as a parent, a parent feels that he's not catching up with the neighbor's son, or he's not doing good in his studies, and they're always worried about this. So as an educator, what's your advice? Because I have seen people being successful even they were not good at studies at early stage, and I had my own opinion. Like, I want to understand your thought process around it, that where the kid is not doing that good in education, and he's not that good at learning maths or maybe English or something like that. So parents are worried now. What should be the thought process, and how they can, if there can be an improvement, and what they should look at, and how they can figure out that what's best for their kids.
So I will deconstruct this question into two parts. If your child has a genuine learning challenge, because of which he's not able to read at age appropriate level, not to numeracy at age appropriate level, has a difficulty in grasping, I we are in a very good place today. There is so much of information available, but please go to an expert and get your child diagnosed if the child is struggling with any kind of challenge. Because a lot of times you don't even know child has a challenge, and the child carries on that baggage all his life. you
Yeah.
know so I've had children in my own family. I mean, I, as an educator, probably when I started my education career in 96 to 2002, I was dealing with them because they would only learn from me, and that's how I became a better teacher. I didn't know that there were possibilities of them being tested and they have a learning challenge, because why can't they do one kind of maths and one kind of spelling errors why they continue to make, right? So identify that. And there are ways that you can address that at an early age. And today, educational boards, even job sector, is talking so big of inclusion that your child will be given a lot of advantages in his journey of learning and progression if he has a challenge. Come to the second point. One is an aptitude, or I would call it aptitude. I wouldn't call it an ability typically, because I think every child is able to learn. I met Howard Gardner way back in 2010, and he signed a book for me, 5 Minds for the Future. And he said a very, very interesting things, which I still hold on to and I keep telling my teachers and parents. He says, child is always learning. It's very interesting, Samir. The child is always learning. But the child will put that learning into practice when he's in a real life situation. If you give him a question paper and ask him to solve a problem, he may not be interested in. But if you give him a real life situation to be in that situation, he'll be able to navigate it through with the learning he had it in school. So that's a very unique observation from someone who's developed the theory of multiple intelligence. So I think if your child is not performing in maths, go back for the reason. Is he interested in maths? Is his maths? There could be many reasons for the same problem. Maybe he's scared of maths teacher. Maybe he just does not have a sound foundation in maths. Are you as a parent spending some time? And is math the only thing he has to learn in life? Can't there be other subjects? And I've seen so many kids being successful in life. I have a student who's dropped out of few, didn't even go to college. And I have kids who've gone to IIT and UPenn. This kid sitting in Amsterdam, working in a cloud space, is earning far more, probably, if I put up the earnings of his entire batch, honestly. At the age of 20, he bought his parents a house and a Fortuner. So imagine that this kid has not even gone to a college, and his aggregate income is higher than the entire of his batch. I know these case studies are very rare, but you've seen students blossoming into wonderful human beings, wonderful, artists, singers. There are so many vocations they can do. So I don't think you should push your child into one discipline which child is not interested in. Have a reasonable, like I always tell my children, I did that mistake. I picked up computer science in grade 11th instead of maths, and I thought computer science is a very exciting subject. There were 200 kids who appeared in the entrance test, and only 40 were given computer science. So, but the languages I studied that point of time, Pascal, Basic, Cobalt, don't even exist today. But maths is a life skill. So I always encourage, if you're not really bad at maths, continue doing maths till grade 12, because it's a life skill. Even if you get 55, it's fine, and don't bother. But you're carrying a life skill. So I think have conversation with your children. What are the subjects, which are the life skill subjects, and they need to do irrespective of what they want to do? And what is it in for them? These kids are really smart. They say, why should I study history? Because history is taught in such a boring mechanism in school. They say, why do I need to remember what happened in 1881 in Battle of Plassey? Why do I need to remember what happened in 1947? But if you tell them that that is a context, that is not what you need to remember. You need to remember that as a nation, if we don't stand for ourselves in time, we may fall to prey to imperialism. We may have capitalism becoming stronger, and how the conflicts are resolved. What are the political repercussions? And then talk about what are the careers. There is a Sciences Po University in Europe which teaches about political conflict as a minor. So bring in conversations which are more relevant. And I think from age 14 onwards, organizations such as yours can play a very important role. In our school, I've started a mentorship program. We encourage children in grade 9 to find a mentor in their family of the vocation they are interested in, and meet that mentor periodically and keep a career log and have conversations. What are they experiencing in their career? How do they like? In grade 10th, 11th, I encourage my children to 10th, 11th, 10th, I do job shadowing program where they shadow a professional of their choice for 15 days during summer vacations. And they write the report of what it means to be a doctor, what it means to be a consultant. In grade 11th, I place them for internships, so go and experience. And I had 2 kids last year who wanted to be a doctor, nothing else but be a doctor. And one of them is studying fashion communication in Milan. And the second one is going Master of Science from Ahmedabad University. She's taken an integrated course. Because when they experienced what it means to be with a doctor, one of them realized they can't see blood. How would you be a good doctor if you can't see blood? And why do you want to be a doctor? Because I like Meredith Grey in Grey's Anatomy. So I want to be a doctor. That's the character I idolize. So children pick up these characters from movies, serials, Netflix, and they want to be like them. So I think have open conversations, find them mentors, and don't judge them. Don't judge them that you are incapable of doing it. I think it's an era of growth mindset. We know all how it is being talked about. Every child has capability of doing everything. Whether they have interest or not is a question. I think it answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Mr. Sameer, for all the thought process you shared with us. And I think brilliant point. Somebody who will watch this episode, I think a lot of learnings are going to come out of it. And I've already taken so much of your time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and have a great day ahead, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.